This morning, you probably woke up to a list. Messages, work, bills, errands. Maybe your day already felt full before your feet touched the floor, as if being human means being chased by invisible tasks from the moment your eyes open. But the real answer is far stranger. For most of human history, your ancestors did not live inside a schedule. They did not clock in. They did not count Monday through Friday. They did not spend 8 hours in one place doing the same repeated task until the light outside changed. So what did ancient humans actually do all day? The answer is not laziness. It is not endless struggle. It is not the cartoon image of a desperate cave person sprinting from predators every hour. It is something more surprising. Your ancestors worked, rested, watched, wandered, repaired, played, argued, flirted, told stories, and paid very close attention to the living world around them. Their days were not empty, but they were different. And once you understand that difference, your own modern exhaustion starts to look less like a personal failure and more like a strange historical experiment. Imagine waking up before agriculture. No streets, no office, no calendar app. You are part of a small group of hunter-gatherers, the kind of life humans lived for hundreds of thousands of years before farms, cities, and factories appeared. The first thing you notice is not an alarm, it is sound. Birds, wind, people nearby shifting awake, a child coughing, someone quietly feeding yesterday's fire back to life. Your day begins inside a social world before it becomes an economic one, because survival is not something you do alone. Who is hungry? Who is tired? Who saw animal tracks yesterday? Who knows where the tubers are still good? Who needs help carrying a baby? In the modern world, work often begins when you separate from the people you love. In the ancient world, work usually began by noticing them. Anthropologist Richard Lee saw this clearly when he studied the Juhoansi people of the Kalahari. They were not living fossils, and they were not a perfect window into every ancient human life. No living people should be treated that way. But their foraging life gave researchers a rare glimpse into how a human day can look when food is gathered from a landscape instead of bought from a store. Lee found something that shocked many readers. Adults did not spend every waking hour hunting and gathering. Many worked fewer hours at food getting than industrial people spend at paid jobs. That did not mean life was easy. It meant the rhythm of survival was built around bursts of effort, shared knowledge, and long periods of social time. What would that feel like? Some mornings, you would go out searching for plants. You might dig for roots, collect berries, crack nuts, gather honey, or look for edible leaves that someone in your group learned about from someone older. This was not mindless picking. It was expert work. Your eyes had to read tiny differences in color, shape, season, smell, and soil, because the wrong plant could make you sick, and the right one could feed several people. A grocery aisle tells you what is food. The wild does not. You had to know. And that knowledge lived in bodies, memory, songs, jokes, warnings, and the careful corrections of elders. Other days you might join a hunt, but hunting was not always the daily center of life that movies imagine. Among many hunter-gatherers, gathered foods provided the most reliable calories, while hunting added meat, fat, status, risk, and excitement. Anthropologist James Woodburn, who studied the Hadza of Tanzania, described societies where immediate sharing mattered more than storing wealth. Food moved quickly through the group. Meat especially became a social event. If someone returned with an animal, the day changed. People gathered, people watched, people commented. People received portions according to rules, relationships, and expectations that everyone understood. A hunt was never just protein. It was politics. It was reputation. It was memory. It was a story that could be told again later, with the mistakes made funnier and the danger made larger. Does that sound so different from today? Someone still comes home with news, and the group still gathers around it. Only now, the fire is a screen. One of the hardest things for a modern mind to understand is that ancient work often blended into everything else. A person could walk while teaching, search while gossiping, repair a tool while listening to a dispute, watch children while preparing food, notice clouds while telling a story. There was effort, but the effort was threaded through relationships and place. Your ancestors did not have a sharp wall between productivity and life. That wall is newer than you think. Marshall Salins famously called hunter-gatherers the original affluent society. He did not mean they were rich in objects. He meant that some foraging societies met their needs with relatively modest labor because desire, storage, ownership, and scarcity worked differently from the way they work in modern market life. That idea has been debated for decades. Ancient life included hunger, injury, infection, infant death, violence, drought, and fear. But the debate itself reveals something important. For a very long time, educated people assumed life before civilization must have been pure misery. Then the evidence forced a more complicated question. What if some ancient humans had less stuff, but more time? That question changes everything, because time is not just empty space between tasks. Time is where human culture grows. If you had no field to plow all day, no boss to satisfy, and no inbox multiplying while you slept, what would fill the hours? Conversation, observation, childcare, courtship, tool-making, ritual, teaching, play, rest, and yes, boredom. Ancient humans were not noble spirits floating above frustration. They got annoyed, they competed, they envied, they worried, they made bad choices. But their days made room for a kind of attention that modern life often breaks apart. Think about tool making. A stone tool is not just a rock. It is a plan held in the hand. To shape it, you must imagine the flakes before they exist. You must strike at the right angle. Too hard and it breaks. Too soft and nothing useful happens. Archaeologist Louis Binford helped change how scientists thought about ancient tools by arguing that artifacts were not isolated objects, but parts of entire systems of behavior. A scraper, a spear point, or a blade carried information about movement, food, repair, and planning. When you look at an ancient tool, you are looking at time made visible. Someone sat there. Someone tried. Someone learned from a mistake. Someone maybe taught a younger person where to place their fingers. Is that work? Yes. Is it school? Also yes. Is it family life? Probably. Ancient humans spent enormous amounts of time learning because childhood itself is one of humanity's strangest inventions. Compared with many animals, you are born unfinished. Your brain needs years of feeding, watching, copying, failing, and being corrected before it can survive well. Anthropologist Sarah Hrdy argued that human children evolved in a world of cooperative care where mothers, fathers, grandparents, siblings, and others all helped keep the young alive. That means a prehistoric camp was not just a place where adults rested, it was a classroom with no walls. Children watched adults dig, cut, carry, throw, cook, sort, laugh, and negotiate. They played at adult life before they were trusted with it. A child might carry a tiny bow, another might imitate digging, another might listen to an elder describe a water hole from years before. No one called it education, but the whole day was teaching. This matters because your brain still learns by watching people more than by reading instructions. You are descended from creatures who became human in public, surrounded by faces, hands, voices, and corrections. Even your awkwardness has ancient roots. You are built to care what the group thinks because the group once meant life. So another major part of the ancient day was managing people, not in an office sense, in a survival sense. Who can be trusted? Who is angry? Who shares? Who cheats? Who needs comfort? Who is becoming dangerous? Small groups do not remove politics. They make politics intimate. If someone refuses to share, everyone knows. If someone brags too much, everyone hears. If someone is grieving, everyone sees. Anthropologist Christopher Boehm argued that many hunter-gatherer groups used ridicule, criticism, and group pressure to keep domineering people from becoming tyrants. In other words, ancient humans spent part of the day doing something very familiar. They managed status. They noticed ego. They talked about other people. Gossip was not just entertainment, it was social intelligence. It was a warning system. What you call drama may be an ancient technology. Then there was food after it was found. Modern food often appears as a finished object, a loaf, a package, a bowl. But for most of history, food demanded transformation. Seeds had to be cracked, meat had to be butchered, roots had to be cleaned, fibers had to be stripped, fire had to be managed. Cooking was one of the great human time machines because it made calories easier to digest and may have helped support the growth of the human brain. Primatologist Richard Wrangham argued that cooking shaped human evolution by changing how much energy your ancestors could get from food. That idea is debated in its details, but the larger point is powerful. A fire was not just warmth, it was digestion outside the body. It was safety.
It was light. It was a gathering place. And when the sun went down, the day did not simply end. It changed shape. Around firelight, people could do what humans do with unusual intensity. Tell stories. A story can warn you about a poisonous plant. It can teach you where the animals move when the dry season comes. It can explain why a selfish person became a joke. It can carry grief without letting it crush the group. It can make the invisible rules of life feel visible. When you watch a video at night because you want meaning after a long day, you are not doing something separate from your ancestors. You are reaching for the same ancient tool in a new form. You want the day to become a story before it disappears. But what about all the empty hours? This is where the modern imagination often fails. Rest was not necessarily a reward after maximum productivity. Rest was part of survival. If the afternoon was brutally hot, sitting still was intelligent. If food was already gathered, forcing more work could waste energy. If a hunt had failed, telling the story could teach the next attempt. If a child needed comfort, holding that child was not unproductive. It was the maintenance of the future. Kristen Hawkes and other researchers developed the grandmother hypothesis, the idea that older women may have played a major role in human evolution by helping feed and care for grandchildren. That means an ancient day may have depended on people who were not producing babies of their own, but were producing survival through knowledge, food, and attention. Your ancestors did not measure value only by speed. An old person who knew where water remained in a dry year could be worth more than a young person who could run fast. Knowledge had weight. Memory could feed you. So an ancient day was also a day of remembering. Where did the herd go last season? Which tree fruits first? Which family has tension with yours? Which child is ready to learn a dangerous task? Which stranger looks generous? Your brain evolved for this dense web of practical meaning, not for abstract busyness that produces no visible result. That may be why modern fatigue can feel so strange. You can answer messages all day and still feel as if nothing happened. You can sit still for 10 hours and feel exhausted. You can be surrounded by people online and still feel socially hungry. Your body is ancient enough to expect effort to have texture. A carried log, a shared meal, a repaired tool, a child asleep because someone held them, a path remembered, a danger avoided. But modern life often turns effort into symbols, numbers, notifications, forms, deadlines, progress bars. Your ancestors had stress, but much of their stress had a face, a sound, a smell, a season, or a direction. Yours often has none. That difference matters. It does not mean ancient life was better. It means ancient life was human in ways your nervous system still recognizes. There is a reason a walk outside can repair something in you that a free hour on a couch does not. There is a reason making food with your hands feels different from ordering it. There is a reason a real conversation can calm you faster than scrolling through 1,000 voices. Your body remembers a world where attention was not constantly harvested by distant strangers. It remembers a day shaped by weather, hunger, kinship, light, skill, and story. So what did ancient humans actually do all day? They lived inside a pattern of effort and attention that was slower than yours, but not simpler. They searched for food. They made tools. They cared for children. They tracked animals. They watched plants. They repaired relationships. They rested when rest made sense. They shared. They argued. They laughed. They taught. They listened to old people. They watched young people become useful. They turned fear into warnings and events into stories. They did not have your comfort. They did not have your medicine. They did not have your safety. But they also did not have your endless, invisible list. And that is the twist. The question was never whether ancient humans were busy. They were. The question is what kind of busy they were allowed to be. Their busyness was tied to bodies, seasons, tools, children, hunger, and the people sitting close enough to hear them breathe. Your busyness is often tied to systems too large to see and demands too abstract to touch. That is why learning about an ancient day can feel oddly personal. It is not only history, it is a mirror. When you feel restless after doing nothing, your body may be asking for meaningful effort. When you feel lonely after endless contact, your mind may be asking for a smaller circle. When you feel tired after a day of tasks, some ancient part of you may be asking where the food is, where the fire is, where the story is, and who all this work was for.
This morning, you probably woke up to a list.
But for most of human history, you woke up to a world, and your day was not something to survive. It was something to belong to, and that is what made your ancestors human. Attention, cooperation, purpose, and story, and those instincts are still inside you. So maybe the answer is not to do less. Maybe it is to build a life that feels worth belonging to.